Hi there. Hopefully this video is going to be of some benefit to somebody out there. This is going to show you how to replace and reset your Smartfix Fault Finder by Gallagher. Sometimes the batteries go dead in these things and you got to replace it. And even when you replace the battery inside this thing, sometimes that doesn't always solve the problem. When you put a new battery in, it still won't come on. Sometimes you have to reset it. So I'm going to go through this and show you how to do this. Now the good thing about the Gallagher testers on both their Smartfix or their Fault Finder, that's the new name they've given them, and their DVM3, their basic, I think I got a tester like that, sort of, it's a parted out one, but their other tester looks like this. They are repairable. All the other brands of testers out there, Zariba, Parmac, Speedrite, StayFix, all the other testers that are out there are not repairable. So that's what's nice about the Gallagher stuff. You can actually repair these testers. So to replace the battery in this, do not take this area apart up here. There's nothing behind there but plastic, and there's this little button thing you press to release a little probe out of there. There's a spring in there. If you take that apart, not knowing the springs in there, this thing will shoot off and you'll lose a bunch of pieces. So leave this area alone. It'll save you the headache. But you do is flip it over. Sometimes we'll have these little plastic pegs, covers over the screws. Sometimes they don't, but if they do, you just need to get a you need to get like a pocket knife or a box cutter with a little blade on it. And let me go get some. I need to get that. I can't get this one out. Oh, actually, yeah, it came out. But if you lose one or you booger it up, it doesn't really do anything. Sometimes they have got Phillips screws, or like this one, it's got the little square-headed screw in it. So you need the right tool to pull that screw apart, or screw out of there. And I need to go find it. So let me go find that tool. Alright, let's see. It is I don't remember offhand what size square-headed screw it is, or what size it is, but I know it's this tool because that's the only one I've got. So if it's a Phillips screw, you just take it out with a Phillips screwdriver. There's 4 of them in there, all 4 the same size. Lucky thing is these batteries aren't, really hard to come by. They are a 3-volt like watch battery, about the size of a nickel. They've got different size 3-volt batteries out there. Some are thicker, some are thinner. But the part number on the battery, when you go down to the local, you're getting a hardware store, a auto parts store, you can find them, but they are a CR2032 or just a 2032. But pull the back cover off, set this up to the side. There's your circuit board. Now you need to pull. There's this black rubber gasket. Kind of pull it, and the board comes out with it. And it may be snapped on here at the front here. Just kind of unsnap it. Set the front cover off to the side, and the board kind of sits inside this black gasket thing there. That's for your battery. There's your circuit, the display. There's your little button right there that you press on and off. But there's where your battery hides at. It's right inside here. So you need a small flat screwdriver or something. You need to press the battery out. There's a little slot right up here. You can kind of see the battery. So just go up here and push that battery out. You can see it sliding out there. There's the old battery. Yep, CR2032, 3-volt battery. So I'll test the battery real quick. The thing didn't come on at all, but we'll check the battery just to see. Make sure if the battery shows over 3 volts, and the thing should come on. But the board in these testers don't go bad that often. We are getting diddly squat. So the battery's junk. So here's a new battery, CR2032. It doesn't matter what brand you get that you use, but it's the one we have on hand. I need a knife to cut this open or something. Here, let's use this. Like it says 2032 is a part number, and you'll see that stamped on the packaging like this one's got, CR2032 or just 2032. And like I said, it's a 3-volt battery. We'll check this battery just to make sure it's good. 3.3 volts, so this battery's good. Now, you can sometimes just slide this battery back in, little slot there, and if you're not sure which way it goes in, the side with the plus on it, which is the top of it, this is the back of the battery, there's the top of the battery, this is your positive side, so it matches up like this. Sometimes you slide it right in, it still, see, it came on that time. Sometimes you put a battery in and it still won't come on. So here's, if it doesn't come on when you first put the battery in, now this thing does have an automatic shut off feature. If it doesn't detect anything after 2-3 seconds, it shuts off. Like it did there. Now sometimes you have to reset this board, and I'll show you how to reset it. If you put a new battery in there, it still won't come on. You know, small flat screwdriver or a pocket knife or something metal, and what you do, you take, like there's this opening, it's hard to see in the video, but there's an opening right up here where you press the battery out at. What you need to do is you need to touch this bottom plate and its upper cover on top of the battery at the same time. So kind of go in at an angle and hold your screwdriver, pocket knife, or whatever you're using. Just hold it against the bottom plate and this upper cover at the same time, basically shorten it together. And hold it there for a few seconds and leave it. Take the new battery, slide it in there, and as it makes contact with the screwdriver or knife or whatever you're using, just push all the way in and slowly pull that screwdriver back out, and it should, like that one, it automatically come back on. Sometimes if you put a battery in, it may come on automatically. Sometimes you put a battery, it won't come on. That's when you need to try that reset feature on it. And that doesn't always work the first time. If it doesn't, slide the battery back out, put the screwdriver back in there, and then try it again. And usually after usually once or 2-3 times, that will get it going. And then just press the button. This is the old one. The new ones have amps and kV on the screen at the same time. This one has it where amps is one way, hit the button, and kV goes the other way. So this is the older version. But you just want to press it, make sure that it comes on, and that if it does switch like this one does, you push it every couple of seconds, it should switch. If yours has the amps and kV on at the same time, then it won't switch like this one does. This is the old one, old style. It should just come on and do something. So now you want to put it back together and be kind of careful, because this, you know, you don't want to static discharge anything, but so just make sure you're not touching too much on there when the battery's in there. Just touch the edges of the board, you'll be all right. So take the board and the little flap that covered up your ground peg in the bottom left corner, make sure it's in the bottom left corner on this one, and you got these little notches and grooves right up here. That's the board kind of slips in those. You just kind of work it around. And then hold like that. And now I would say put the back cover on first, and there's this little spring deal right there. That's what makes contact with the back of that. And this little metal sticky aluminum foil that's inside this, that's what is using your body as a ground. So your hand, when you don't have the ground probe attached to it, your hand is using your body as a ground for the tester. So it's just basically through induction, through your hand to this and onto the board. So put the board back in there. Make sure it's all in there evenly, and make sure the gasket lines up on the little grooves all the way around, nice and flush. Take the front cover. You can clean the lens if you need to. Put that back on there. And before you screw it together, let's go ahead and press the button on the outside. Make sure as you press it, every couple of seconds, it should switch between kilovolts and amps. Now sometimes with these, the button right here gets a little spongy and it won't press the button correctly. Sometimes this little, there's the front button, there's a little piece that is pressing against your button on the inside. Sometimes that gets a little flattened and won't make contact with the battery on the inside. If you want to try to help this thing make contact with the battery better, here's a little trick that I do. Take your thumb, put some pressure on the back side, so that way when you press this thing, you don't shove right on through this screen here. What I do is I put my finger on the front side and hold it flush, go right above the little button thing there, and just kind of push it inwards, but make sure you put your finger on the front side, push some pressure against that, and that bends that thing up just a little, because it puts a little curve to it, so it bends it up just a little bit. And what that does, for whatever reason, gets it a better angle to press that button on the board. It just moves it just enough. That's a little trick that I've learned on this. They don't have too much trouble with that on the newer one, but these older ones, yeah, it presses it better too. Good. Okay, now let's put the screws back in this thing. And we will just, I'm going to go find a good working charger. And we'll make sure that this thing is working. Should read kilovolts and amps. And the amps number that we'll get, it all depends on what size unit that you have it hooked up to. But we will see what kind of amps we get. And this will and it should have an amps and a number, or the arrow, and a kilovolt reading. And you'll get a high amp rating out of a unit when there's no ground and no fence hooked up to it. Your printer's reading it wide open. See, it's switching kV and amps, kV and A. Little button still works up there. And this one did come with the ground probe, so this is your ground probe that do come with these things. You don't have to use it, but it comes with it. Snaps on there, and this would be in the ground. This would go onto your fence. So let's see if we can find a good working unit. Alright, found a 100 miles Zariba that I fixed for a customer, so we'll use this to test her out, make sure that it's reading right. So in order to test the unit on its own, you have to have the ground probe on this unit touching the ground side. Or if you don't have the ground probe, you can get a little piece of wire and put like a little alligator clip on there and then clip it on to the ground terminal peg right here. But if you touch just the hot side, you want to get an partial reading, because you have to go between ground and fence at the same time with this tester. Because out on the fence, your body's acting as the ground, so you're basically touching this when you have your hand on the back of the thing when you're holding it. So in order to get a right reading, you have to put the ground probe on this tester. If you don't have it, you have to jerry rig something up to go between this terminal down here and the ground terminal. So we're going to touch it here. I'm going to see what kind of reading we get. Getting, it says 11 point, almost 10,000 volts. And we'll go to amps. 24 amps. So what that tells us is that the amp feature, fault finding feature on this tester is working. And of course the kilovolt reading is working as well. So that's how you replace a battery, reset a battery on a Gallagher Smartfix or Fault Finder of a Gallagher tester, and how you can test it across the terminals of a unit. These testers are really, really good. Like I said, they're the only brand that I know of that you can actually fix their testers and stuff. You can get circuit boards, you can get about anything you want from one of these. I mean, these things sell new for about $100, but you can usually fix them. If it's just a battery, you know, batteries are $3 or $4 at the hardware store or auto parts store. That's usually what goes wrong with them. Unless they get left outside, these things are not waterproof, so you got to kind of keep them protected. Make sure you keep in your pocket, keep in the glove box of the truck, or if you got like a side-by-side little glove box or toolbox in it, keep it in there. Don't leave it outside. And I've seen these things get water in them plenty of times, so you got to be kind of careful with that. What else to say about it? And it's a good little tester. It's real small. It's not real big. It fits right in your pocket, and it's a real handy little thing. Works really well. Reads about most brands, accurately. So hopefully this helps you out. If you are having trouble with one of these, you tried a battery and it still won't work. You've reset it 4 times and it still won't reset and come back on. There could be something wrong with it, or it's just the technique that you're using is not getting it quite right. I mean, like I said, I got lucky the first time I shut the battery in, it came right on. That's rare. It doesn't happen every time. Sometimes you put a battery in, you got to reset it. I got lucky the first time it reset and it came right on. It's taken me 3 or 4 times to reset a one before, because I just didn't get it quite right. But a good tester and everything. If you need help, get a hold of us. We're at fencerfixer.com. Fencer and Fixer is F as in Frank, both words.